Welcome back to Low Stress Math with Mrs. Bono. We are in Unit 6, Transformations, Lesson 2, Congruence versus Similar Figures. Now, I've briefly talked about congruence and I've briefly talked about similarity, but I want to clarify a few things with everyone. So, let's math. All right. Objects are congruent if the shapes or figures are the same size and shape. So, oh dear, sorry. Size and shape. Now, if something is the same size, we say that they're equal. And the symbol for being the same shape is a little tilde. Looks like that. Now, the symbol for congruence is to take the same shape and put it over the same size and have a tilde over an equal sign. Right. So, let's just say these are congruent figures. And I'm going to call this S for smiley face and this S prime for smiley face 2. This smiley is exactly the same size and shape as that smiley. So smiley is congruent to smiley prime. Remember that little line, that little single quote is a prime. Okay, so now we're going to talk about shapes. But before we do that, I want to talk about a word that I haven't used yet. And that word is corresponding. So you notice how we have all this lovely room down here? It's all going to be filled with notes. So just take a deep breath and be ready to write. Corresponding. So if something is corresponding, it's in the same place, but on a different shape. So let me write that down. Same place, different shape. Different, I'm going to say shape, but I'll explain that more in a minute. So let's say I have these two shapes. A corresponds to A prime. They're in the same place, but on two different figures. That's the word I want, not shape. Different figures. Because they are the same shape, and I don't want to write it wrong. Two different figures. So, let's draw a couple of figures. Let's say we have this triangle, and we'll call it A, B, C, and this triangle, which is the same size and shape, and I know they're not perfect, it's just me, and the smallest angle is still A, B, C. It's kind of like this one got pushed over on its side. Now, I'm going to call this A prime, B prime, C prime. And A corresponds to A prime. So A corresponds to A prime. And B corresponds to B prime. Should be an S on there. C corresponds to C prime. So there are my corresponding angles, basically. I'm actually going to do some line segments now. I'm not sure if you remember how to do line segments, but from A to B is a line segment. And it corresponds to, so A to B corresponds to A prime, B prime. Now it's pointed in a different direction, but it's still corresponding. It's still the same place in a different figure. And I'm putting a line segment symbol over them because those are line segments. And BC corresponds to B prime C prime. And CA, or you could say AC, it doesn't matter, corresponds to C prime A prime. Now, I'm not going to get crazy about having those letters in the same order. If you wrote CA corresponds to A prime C prime, I'd be okay with it because it is the same line segment. But it's not really, what's the right word? It's not really convention. So, what's the symbol for an angle? An angle symbol just looks like kind of a less than sign, but that symbol means angle. Now, a vertex is the point where the two line segments, it's the point of the angle. It's the point where two line segments intersect or meet. It's the point where two line segments meet. So let's say I'm talking about right here. That could be called angle CAB, where A is the vertex. So angle CAB is the same angle. Oh, sorry, it should be congruent to angle BAC. It's the same angle, but I prefer to call it by the vertex, or just use the vertex and call it angle A. So this is angle A, and that's angle A prime. So now when I talk about angle A, you know I'm talking about just the vertex of the angle. So back up here. Oh, wait, sorry. No, I'm going to come back up here. Corresponding angles are congruent. So in congruent shapes, these two shapes are congruent. Corresponding angles are congruent. So let me write that down. Corresponding angles are congruent. So angle A is congruent to angle A prime, and those are the corresponding angles. Angle B is congruent to angle B prime. Those are corresponding angles. And angle C is congruent to angle C prime. That's the corresponding angle. But it's also true about the sides. Corresponding sides are congruent. And I'm going to use the symbol for congruent because I don't feel like writing that word out. So, side AB is congruent to A prime, B prime. And BC is congruent to B prime, C prime. Make sure you're putting that line segment on top because these are line segments. A to B is a line segment. A prime to B prime is a line segment. They're the same place in different figures, and they're congruent. And AC is congruent to A prime, C prime. There we go. Now we're going to talk a little bit about similar. Two objects are similar if they have the same shape but are different sizes. That's not true. Let me tell you something. Let's go looking right up here. If the shapes are the same, they're congruent. If their angles are congruent, no matter what size they are, they're congruent. They're similar. So right up here, I'm going to say triangle ABC is congruent to triangle A prime, B prime, C prime. Forgot my primes, C prime. But also, triangle ABC is similar to triangle A prime, B prime, C prime. Part of being congruent is being similar. So I miswrote it down here. I should have written they could be different sizes. They usually are, but not always. But two objects, so we'll just say two objects are similar if they have the same shape, but are different sizes, but they could still be the same size. I'll get over it. The symbol for similarity is a tilde. Now, let's call this a flake. Flake 1 and flake 2. So flake is similar to flake prime because they are the same exact picture, only I shrunk that one down. So here's my triangles. Corresponding angles are congruent. Angle B is congruent to angle B prime. Angle A is congruent to angle A prime. Angle C is congruent to angle C prime. Those are congruent. Corresponding angles are congruent. That's what makes them the same shape. The angles are congruent. Angle A is congruent to angle A prime. Angle B is congruent to angle B prime. Angle C is congruent to angle C prime. Congruent angles. But the sides, on the other hand, are in proportion. So let's talk about that. Corresponding sides are in proportion. Now, what is proportion? You've used proportions, like last year you did percent proportions, and you had part over whole equals percent over 100. That's a percent proportion. These proportions are sides. So I'm going to say that side AB and BC are equal to or in proportion to A prime, B prime over B prime, C prime. What are you talking about, Bono? Okay, let's look at this. I'm going to say that from A to B is 1, and from B to C is 3. So this AB over BC is 1/3. Now, A prime to B prime is 2, and B prime to C prime is 6. Look at that. Is that equal? Is 1/3 equal to 2 over 6? You know that it is, so those sides are in proportion. And on to the next. So, your turn. Try this whole page, pause the video, and I'll be right back with you. Pause the video, do the problems. You know what? Let me read the directions to you. Identify the shapes that are congruent. Your answer should be written using the congruent symbol. Explain why they're congruent. Exercise 2. Identify the shapes that are similar. Your answer should be written using the similar symbol and why they are similar. Okay, now it's up to you. Please tell me that you stopped the video and you tried the problem. You're not going to learn math unless you do math. You've got this. It's not that bad. All right, let's look at number 1. And I'm going to say that B and D are the exact same shape. A and F look very similar, only F has 8 sides and A only has 7. C and E are the same shape, but they're not the same size. So same size, same shape. B is congruent to D. They are the same size and shape. Same shape, same size. Okay, well, let's look down a little bit at this one. A and F are congruent. They are the same shape. But also, let's look at C and D. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 2, 3. They have the same number of sides, and they are the same size. So I'm going to say that C is congruent to D. Same size, same shape. All right, same size, same shape. Now let's go down here and find similar ones. Look, this is standing out quickly. B and E, they are different sizes, but the same shape. So B is similar to E. All the angles, look at those 4 angles, they're all right angles, so the angles are congruent. And the sides are in proportion. How do I know that? Because all 4 sides here are the same size, and all 4 sides there are the same size. These are both squared, so the sides are in proportion. And the sides are in proportion. Okay, let's look at this. C has all 3 sides the same. It's an equilateral triangle. And E has all 3 sides the same. It's an equilateral triangle. So C and E are similar. I'm going to go out on a limb and say B and D are also similar. They're congruent too, but they're similar because the sides can still be in proportion if the proportion is 1/2 equals 1/2. But I'm okay with that. So I'm going to say that B is similar to D also. Angles are congruent, sides are in proportion. All right. Well, that's enough for now. I'll talk to you soon. Take care.